Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we're going to fundamentally shift how you look at wealth. We are moving completely away from that exhausting, never-ending treadmill of always needing to earn more money. And instead, we're going to focus on how to plug the hidden leaks in your current spending. So if you've ever felt like your paycheck literally just vanishes into thin air by the end of the month, this is absolutely for you. So let's jump right into part one, the leaky bucket trap, and why making more money just isn't the answer. Picture this. You've got two guys standing in a massive downpour. Man A is holding this huge bucket, which represents a really high income. But that bucket has 100 holes punched in the bottom. The rain pours in, sure, but it's pouring out just as fast. At the end of the storm, he's exhausted, he's stressed, and he is totally broke. Now man B, on the other hand, is holding a small cup. That represents a much lower salary, but his cup is solid steel, 0 holes. He catches every single drop, fills that cup, and then pours it into a barrel, and then another barrel. By the end of the storm, the guy with the small cup is genuinely wealthy. Making more money when you have bad habits is really just pouring water into a leaking bucket. You don't get richer, you just speed up the flow of waste. Moving right along to part two, the invisible money problem, or the hidden cost of convenience. So what exactly is poking all these massive holes in our buckets today? Well, the main culprit is something called frictionless spending. Corporations have literally spent billions of dollars to remove all the friction from buying. You know the drill. You tap a card, you click Buy Now, you use Apple Pay. You never actually see the money leave your hand. When you pay with physical cash, your brain registers this known psychological phenomenon called the pain of paying. But just tapping a card, that entirely numbs the pain. Our money has become completely invisible to us right up until the end of the month when we finally check our credit card statement. And by then, it's just too late. The damage is already done. All right, part three, the Kakeibo philosophy, a century-old antidote to frictionless spending. To fix this invisible money problem, we actually need to look backward to a mindful philosophy invented in 1904 by Japan's first female journalist, Motoko. Now, Kakeibo isn't some complex new app, and it definitely isn't an automated Excel sheet. It's a physical ledger, a book, and a pen. It is the physical act of writing with ink that forces you to stare your spending right in the face. When you physically have to write down latte $6.50 on a piece of paper, your brain processes that transaction entirely differently. You have to stop and think, wait, is this really worth the ink? Is it worth my life energy? It essentially forces your invisible money to become visible again. You see, most of us do our budgeting totally backward, right? We spend whatever we want throughout the month, and then we just cross our fingers and try to save whatever's left over, which, let's be real, is usually zero. But Kakeibo completely flips that equation. It's income minus savings equals spending. You pay yourself first. If you make $3,000 and your goal is to save $500, you take that $500 out immediately. Now you simply have to survive on $2,500. And this creates a brilliant kind of artificial scarcity, because when you have less money available, you naturally become more creative. You stop wasting and you start prioritizing. So before you spend a single dime at the start of the month, this system requires you to sit down and ask yourself 4 incredibly simple but powerful questions. Step 1, how much money do I actually have available? Step 2, how much would I like to save? Step 3, how much must I spend on absolute fixed expenses? And step 4, the promise. How can I improve my habits from last month? Getting this down sets your entire intentional foundation. Which brings us to part 4, the 4 spending buckets, which is all about categorizing your life energy. Once that foundation is set, you need to know exactly where the rest of your money is flowing. And Kakeibo handles this beautifully with a daily 3-minute checkup. This is way better than doing a highly stressful end-of-month autopsy where the patient is, already dead. It breaks every single expense into one of 4 distinct buckets. First is survival, rent, food, utilities. You can optimize these, sure, but you can't cut them to 0. Second is optional, dining out, shopping, random subscriptions. Now this, right here, this is the leak in your bucket. This is where your financial battle is won or lost. Third is culture. Books, museums, courses. I absolutely love this one because Kakeibo views spending money to grow your mind as an investment, not a waste. And fourth is extra, unexpected repairs, gifts, things like that. Every evening, you take just 3 minutes to put your daily receipts into these buckets. You feel the sting of a bad purchase while the memory is fresh, which stops you from making that exact same mistake the next day. Now, for that highly dangerous optional bucket, the fun, the dining out, the Japanese often use the envelope method, which you might know as cash stuffing.
At the start of the month, you pull out your exact optional budget in physical cash and shove it into a dedicated envelope. When you go out, you only take cash from this envelope. And when it's empty, the fun's over. No overdrafts, no pulling out the credit card. The physical limit is absolute. If you blow your whole budget in week 1, well, you're spending the next 3 weeks at home. It teaches you this visceral impulse control because you literally cannot cheat physics. An empty envelope simply cannot buy a beer.
The system also introduces a psychological cooling off period, and this is specifically designed to kill that instant gratification loop we are all trapped in. When you see something you want, you do not buy it right away. Day 1, you write it down on a wish list. Then you force a 30-day waiting period. By day 30, you review the list, and the data shows that 90% of the time, the urge will completely vanish. You'll look at it and wonder why you ever even thought you needed it. You just save money by doing absolutely nothing, which really proves that a lot of our shopping is just a temporary dopamine hit to self-medicate a bad mood. Okay, part 5, wealth is a gap, and why a ratio matters so much more than your salary. Through all this continuous monthly reflection, where you're basically acting like a scientist studying your own behavior, you begin to realize a fundamental mathematical truth. This leads us to the exact secret that wealthy people know. Wealth is not about income. It's about the gap between what you make and what you spend. Wealth, guys, is a ratio. It's not just a raw number. Let's look back at our 2 guys from the beginning. Man A makes $200,000 a year, but he spends $200,000. His gap is 0. He is stuck on a treadmill, literally one lost job away from total ruin. But man B? He makes only $50,000, but he strictly spends $30,000, saving $20,000 a year. Man B is actually much richer. He has widened the gap. Every single dollar he saves acts as a tiny employee that works for him, grows, and ultimately buys back his time and his freedom. Which brings us to part 6, the 7-day challenge. Let's stop the leaks and patch the bucket. Ultimately, your life is a ledger. If your spending doesn't align with your values, like if you say family is most important, but your ledger shows you dropping hundreds on gadgets and nothing on family time, it is time to pick up a pen. So here is your mission. We're doing a 7-day Kakeibo challenge. For the next 7 days, no mindlessly checking your banking apps. Instead, you must physically write down every single cent you spend by hand. Using notebook, a napkin, the back of your hand, it doesn't matter. Just write it down. At the end of the 7 days, review your list, take a red pen, and circle all the wants, or optional spending, and calculate that total. You are probably going to be absolutely shocked at how much invisible money you're setting on fire every single week. But hey, awareness is always the very first step to change. To wrap up this explainer, I want you to look inward and confess, down in the comments, what is the one small, guilty pleasure expense that constantly drains your wallet without you even realizing it? Is it that daily premium coffee? Those sneaky little in-app game purchases? Taking an Uber when you easily could have walked? Let us know what is leaking from your bucket. And tell us, are you finally ready to take the vow of Kakeibo and become the master of your money? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.